But right now, I'm going to start it off by talking about a band that I really miss talking about because I love their music so much. That would be the band Heathen. Thrash metal band. Many of you may have heard of them or have heard them. They were a band that came out of the Bay Area thrash scene, had a couple really great albums, and then kind of disappeared once the grunge movement hit. They have a new live album coming out called Bleed the World Live. The live album sounds amazing, absolutely phenomenal. And if you haven't heard the last two studio albums by Heathen, there's an album called The Evolution of Chaos, and of course, Empire of the Blind, two of the most incredible albums I have ever listened to. And now they have a new live album coming out, which I think is great. So they released a song from that live album, and that song is called Sun in My Hand. That is off of the last album, Empire of the Blind, which came out back in 2021. And just a phenomenal mix on this live record. And when you listen to this, at least from this song, you can totally tell a lot of time and care is really put into getting the best performances from their tour. Now, if you're looking to pre-order the live album, before I get into the rest of this, they, on their web shop, have pre-orders available for physical copies if you want them. They have a couple t-shirts for sale. They have a really cool slip mat for sale. They have a transparent red vinyl version of the live album. They have the CD. And of course, there is an option to buy all of it at a slight discount. So I will be putting that in the show notes if you want to go there and pre-order that live record or buy any of their other merchandise that they have for sale up there. But Heathen's a great band, man. It's pretty crazy how overlooked they've become, because they are a band that essentially has had a long delay between albums. So Evolution of Chaos, I think, came out 2010, and then Empire of the Blind came out in 2021. Now, for those of you that may or may not know, Kragen Lum, who, by the way, I interviewed for the show, and I will play a couple clips here from him in a second. He filled in for Gary Holt on the Blood In, Blood Out tour for Exodus while Gary played with Slayer. And, of course, that caused a delay between records. Then, of course, COVID hits, and they have a new album come out in 2021, but obviously the touring plans were delayed, and that, of course, has held things up for this band. But I'm really excited. They finally put out something new as far as a release. This live album is cool. When you listen to it, the crowd sounds great. The performances of the band sound phenomenal. And what they did was really cool. So they recorded, they went on some tours with, they had a tour with Symphony X. They did a tour with opening for Overkill. And what they did is they recorded all of their shows, and they went through every single show and picked out the best performances from that tour to put on this live album. They even recorded the crowd, which was really cool. And it's just a great feel of a live record. And to kind of talk more about this, I did have Kragen Lum on the show. That interview will be coming up soon. But here's an interview clip where Kragen talks about how they ended up making this live album. Check this out.
We recorded every single show on our tour that we did with Overkill in 2023. Mm-hmm. And we recorded both the band and the audience, and then we scoured through all of the shows to find the best performance of each song or something special for each song. And we worked on kind of compiling it, pulling it all together from all the different shows, and got everything set up, and Zeus mixed it, and it sounds incredible. It sounds amazing, and we're super stoked because I don't know, I grew up listening to live albums, and part of the experience of listening to the live album is the audience reaction and the audience participation and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I've listened to some recent live albums, and there's no audience, they didn't record it, or whatever, and it's kind of it just loses something. There's those classic live albums like, you know, Speak of the Devil and Tribute and Live After Death. And I mean, those have, there's a feeling that you get when you listen to it. And
Right.
so we wanted to try and capture that in a more modern, live record.
By tribute, I'm assuming you're talking about the Randy Rhoads Ozzy Osbourne live album.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that was my first release by Ozzy, and that
Oh,
album,
really?
yeah, it ended up getting me hooked onto him. But yeah, I remember. It's funny you mentioned that record because I remember the audience reaction. I remember, uh, a lot of that live album really getting me into that. And in fact, I probably wouldn't like live records if it weren't for that. So it's a pretty, and I think part of it was recorded in Cleveland. I could be wrong though,
Oh, that's
but
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was the rumor. Nobody really knows, but yeah, so it's cool. And I think you picked a great single, "Sun in My Hand." I think that's probably one of my favorite songs off of Empire of the Blind. I think Empire of the Blind went down some avenues that Heathen never had before, and I think that's one of those tracks that
Yeah.
really, honestly, is probably one of my top two or three on the album.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, what's interesting is it's not the most streamed song or whatever, like play wise,
Yeah.
but when we play live, the crowd is really into it and participates, as you can hear in the
Hmm.
live video and watching the
Right.
video. And it's great, like energy exchange between the band and audience. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So we wanted to kind of lead off with that.
Sure.
And you know, we've got another song that'll sort of be featured and another music video, another live video
Right.
to go with another song from the record. So
Right.
it came out great. We've got at least one song from every album. Um, we were able to find an extra song that wasn't on our usual Overkill tour,
Hmm.
um, tour set list. We had a couple of off-date shows that we did in the U.S. with
Right.
Exhorder. So we pulled "Set Me Free" in from one of those shows, and
Sure.
it came out really good, man.
Yeah, you played Goblin's Blade, which is actually one of my favorite tracks off of that album.
That's
Classic song,
that
definitely.
seems to be the fan favorite from that
Yep.
first record. Uh,
Absolutely, it's my favorite from that album. Honestly, so I was when I looked at the track list, I was pretty excited for that. So, yeah,
cool.
so you have this available. It's for pre-order. It does ship, according to the website, March 14th. But
Yep,
you have it
that's
on
cool.
red. You have it on red vinyl. You have a really cool slip mat that you have available for it. CD, a couple cool T-shirts, and if you want to save a little money, you want everything there, you can buy the whole. You can have it all bundle type thing going on. So,
Yeah,
uh,
the You Can
yeah,
Have It All bundle is only available in the Heathen store.
correct.
So yeah, and the vinyl is it's a transparent red. You can't really tell from the way it's presented, but
Right.
it's going to look really cool. I'm stoked on it.
When you're recording a live record like that, and I know a lot of bands might, will record live albums from like around. I mean, how painstaking is it to go through all of those shows and then be like, hey, pick out what's the best performance. Like, for example, let's say you play 50 shows. You got 50
Yeah.
concerts to go through. Do you do it like, do you go through 50 versions of the song and pick out the best of that 50? Do you go through each show individually? Like, how did you guys go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to go through, and there are going to be some things where like there's a technical glitch, or like,
Hmm.
somebody's wireless cut out, or I mean, there's any number of like problems that can happen during a live show.
Yeah.
So not all of them are going to be usable. You find the ones where everything is usable, and then basically just kind of scour through it and see, okay, where was the magic, so for
Yeah.
example, like we had there's one show where I think uh there are like four songs from it, I think, from the Houston show, where we were just on fire like that
Yeah.
particular night for whatever reason. And the audience was also on fire. It's one thing if we're playing and the audience isn't isn't there with us, or vice versa.
Right.
Sometimes there was a great audience, but like something happened, somebody dropped a pick or a stick, or the mic cut out, anything.
Hmm.
So, it's basically that was what really kind of took us a long time, was kind of filtering out all of the stuff and finding the best ones, and then going in and basically, like, when the show's recorded, it's the whole thing, so you have to go in and you have to cut it up and find just the song and get all those files, and so
Right.
there's a lot of work kind of piecing it all together.
And that's Kragen talking about how they went about creating this live album. I think the mix sounds amazing. Again, they have a video out for Sun in My Hand. Of course, that is a song off of the latest album, Empire of the Blind. And again, pre-orders for that live album are in the show notes. Now, here's the thing about Heathen. When I look at their contemporaries, I mean, they were kind of a band that came out. I mean, the history is very simple. They had a couple records come out late 80s, early 90s. They did a couple tours, and that was it. They really weren't around that long, or didn't put out a lot of material or tour that much. So they were one of those Bay Area bands that kind of went by the wayside and people sort of forgot about. Then in the 2000s, like many of the Bay Area bands and thrash bands did, not just Bay Area bands, but other bands as well, they came back with a comeback album called The Evolution of Chaos, which is still one of the most incredible records I have ever listened to. And when you look at bands from that area or bands from that era that are putting out albums now, Exodus, of course, has really not missed a beat, in my opinion, since 2003. Testament has been very consistent. Death Angel has been consistent. Overkill has been a very consistent band over the last 15, 16 years. Folks, the two albums Heathen has put out, like studio albums, I think are every bit as good as everything those bands have been doing. The problem is exposure. And the other problem is they never really truly developed a fan base. Same thing back in the old days. They never really had a lot of time to really develop a fan base. Fast forward to now, part of that reason is long delays between records, not being able to really tour much because of other commitments, and of course, COVID. So that's all going to change, folks. And I'm going to put a couple of songs down in the show notes for you to check out if you want to check out how great this band actually is. Because if you've never heard them, and there's a lot of people that have heard of them, they just never really took the time to listen to them. I think their last two albums are much better than the old stuff. And on their live album, they do have, there are songs represented from all four studio albums. But these last two are incredible. Now, for those of you that know Heathen and have heard of the band and love the band, I have some great news for you. Kragen Lum and Heathen are sitting on almost 3 albums of material. And they plan on ramping up activity and eliminating the long delays between records. Check out this interview clip where Kragen talks about exactly this. If someone were to ask you, timetable-wise, when would you want to have the next record out? Would it be next year? Sometime around then?
No, this year.
So this year. Okay, cool.
That's what we're working towards. Now, that's if everything goes our way.
Yeah.
But yes, we're working towards that already. I'm already working on scheduling the first recording sessions, and finalizing stuff. All of the rhythm guitar tracks for the whole album are finished. I'm done with them. Most of my guitar solos, I'm done with them. So a lot of it's already complete in a way. It's going to be a matter of, getting in and getting the drums recorded, and then getting everybody else to do their parts, instruments, and and the vocals and everything. And then, we sort of have a head start on it because I have all the guitar, well, not all, but 90-something% of the guitar tracks finished already. So what I'm doing over the next couple months before we have our one-off show in Chicago.
Yeah.
Is I'm going to be working on trying to finalize the rest of the guitar tracks, and then start working on whatever other pieces need to be done. I've got a couple of songs where the vocals still need to kind of be reworked a little bit, but like I said, I mean, 2/3 of it we could go into the studio right now and record it.
Wow, that's really good news. I always,
Yeah.
because when I ask that question, I always ask, how long is it going to take to record it? And then because merchandise, depending on how many bands clog the system, can take quite a while as well. I mean, if like Taylor Swift or Adele go out and make like 12 varieties of their next record, it's going to clog the system up, right? I mean, and or you can get the stuff done pretty quickly. So I always look for the worst case scenario. So it'd be great if it came out this year. That would be awesome. But
I mean, worst case scenario, I would expect that we'd have the first single from the record out at the very least. But
yeah,
but I'm actually hoping that we have a song or two out before that.
Yeah, sure.
I've got stuff that's in the works already. A song I was just working on that we're talking about maybe releasing that won't be on the record, that might be a single before the record comes out. So
yeah,
my goal is to get away from what the band has done in the past, and in terms of how we've released music, and release music frequently, like really frequently.
Yeah,
possibly multiple times a year, where if we have a new song or whatever, just something new out there all the time, because that's the way of the future. And the band has worked at a snail's pace in the past, and I want to pick up the pace. So,
and there you have it, folks. The activity with Heathen is going to ramp up. Before I end this segment here, I do want to say I think they have a very unique sound. They have a little bit more of a melodic singer. We don't have a lot of those in thrash metal, like you guys like Joey Belladonna and Eric from Flotsam and Jetsam. But Heathen is just getting started, folks. Better late than never. But we are going to see a lot of activity, and I got a good gut feeling. I haven't heard any of the new material or upcoming material, but I have a gut feeling it's going to sound amazing. So anyhow, if you like the band, check out some of the songs in the show notes I put up. If you like the band, or if you want to pre-order the live album, by all means, there's a link in the show notes to the Heathen store. And if you want to get any of those items or do the buy it all discount, which is only available in their store, by all means, click on that link and order away. Hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command Podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching, and if you like what you see and hear on the show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified when we have a new video, and if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me